Picture this. You are standing at a corporate conference.
Oh, I know this scene. The room is it's buzzing with that indistinct hum of like 50 different conversations overlapping at once.
Right, exactly. You've got your conference badge dangling around your neck,
Yeah.
and you are holding a lukewarm cup of coffee.
Yep.
And someone nearby is already laughing just a little too loudly near the registration desk.
Oh, yeah. Always.
And what are you doing? You are staring intently at your phone,
Naturally.
just furiously swiping between your email inbox and your calendar for like 11 consecutive minutes.
Trying to look incredibly engaged.
Yes. All just to avoid making eye contact with strangers.
It is a painfully familiar image, honestly. I mean, we have all been that person hovering near a structural pillar, looking incredibly busy while doing absolutely nothing.
Completely nothing.
Just waiting, quietly hoping someone else will take the terrifying initiative to break the ice.
Well, today we are going to tear down that anxiety completely. I'm Marcus, by the way.
And I'm Zara.
And welcome to this deep dive. Our mission today is mapping out the exact architecture of a professional conversation so that you never find yourself pretending to read an email again.
Please, no more fake emailing.
Right. We are diving into a highly practical framework for corporate English, covering the actionable language you really need for networking and small talk.
And this is so crucial because we'll guide you from that terrifying first approach through the middle of the conversation all the way to the graceful exit.
Giving you a reliable structure so you never have to improvise.
Yeah, that concept of improvising is really the root of the problem here, I think. When people think about corporate networking, they view it as this high-stakes test of their inherent charisma.
Oh, totally. Like you have to be the life of the party.
Right. They assume they need to be naturally gregarious, quick-witted, ready with a brilliant anecdote at a moment's notice.
Which is exhausting.
It is. But if you actually understand the mechanics of how a conversation moves from phase to phase, you don't need to rely on spontaneous charm at all.
I look at it like the difference between an impromptu stand-up comedy routine and a structured play.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, because with stand-up, you walk up to a stranger and feel this immense pressure to be instantly engaging. You're pulling reality out of thin air.
Which is terrifying for most of us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if we reframe networking as a play where you already know the cues and the stage directions, that pressure completely disappears.
You aren't desperately searching your brain for the next line. You have a frame.
So let's get right into the hardest part of the play. Act 1. Breaking the physical barrier of standing alone.
The approach, it requires overcoming a significant amount of social friction, really.
Yeah.
You are essentially injecting yourself into an environment where you previously did not exist.
And the data points to a really brilliant, highly self-aware piece of language for approaching a group that's already talking.
Oh, this is my favorite one.
It's just a few words. Mind if I crash the conversation?
The psychology behind that specific phrase is absolutely fascinating.
Because it sounds almost too casual, right?
It does, but why does using the word crash work so effectively? Because it tackles the underlying physical dynamic head on.
Yeah.
When you walk up to a circle of people who are mid-conversation, everybody in that circle knows you are hovering.
They see you.
They do. Everybody knows you are interrupting. It is an inherently awkward moment.
So you're essentially popping the tension balloon before it has a chance to fully inflate.
Precisely.
You aren't pretending that you, organically materialized in their circle.
Yeah.
You are asking for permission while simultaneously acknowledging the intrusion.
Right, which bypasses all the weirdness. By naming that awkwardness directly, using a slightly dramatic, humorous word like crash, you relax the group's defenses.
It's disarming.
Very. It signals that you have high social awareness. You're calling out the elephant in the room, which makes you instantly more approachable.
Okay, popping the balloon works perfectly for a group. But what if there's just one person hovering by the coffee station? Crashing the conversation doesn't really make sense if they aren't talking to anyone?
No, it doesn't. The strategy for a one-on-one opener requires a different tool.
Right.
And the most effective approach here is relying on shared context. The phrase is simply, what did you make of that last session? Notice what is conspicuously absent from that opening line.
Well, it's the default corporate ID badge intro. The classic, Hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm a director of marketing.
Exactly. We default to our name and title because it feels like a safe, familiar script.
That's what everyone does.
Right. But if we break down the conversational dynamics, introducing your job title right out of the gate actually puts a heavy cognitive load on the other person.
Wait, really? A cognitive load just from saying my job?
Yes, because you are subtly demanding that they evaluate you, process your status, and formulate a response to your professional identity before they even know your personality.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It almost creates an immediate hierarchy. Here is my rank, please present yours.
That's exactly what it does. But asking, what did you make of that last session, places the focus entirely on a shared third-party experience.
Because the session is neutral territory.
Exactly. You aren't asking them to judge you. You are inviting them to share an opinion on something you both just sat through.
Okay, but let's play that out in the real world for a second. I walk up to someone, I muster all my courage, I ask about the session, and they just give me a flat, dead-end answer like, oh, it was fine, and then look away.
Yeah, that happens.
Haven't I just made myself look completely foolish?
Well, it feels like a sting in the moment, absolutely.
Hmm.
But from a strategic standpoint, a response like that is actually a massive victory.
A victory how?
If someone gives you a closed-off one-word answer and turns away, they just did you a huge favor.
A favor. By rejecting my conversational olive branch.
Yes, because they just save you 20 minutes of agonizing uphill conversation with someone who has zero interest in being there.
Oh, that's a really good point.
The goal of networking is not to force a deep connection with every single human being in the room. Time is your most valuable asset at these events.
Right. You can't talk to everyone.
Your objective is to find the subset of people who are actually open and receptive to connecting. That neutral question acts as a low-cost filter.
So if they don't engage, you haven't invested your personal identity into the rejection.
Exactly. You just asked about a keynote speech. You can easily pivot, walk away, and try again without any bruised ego.
That completely flips the perspective. It's a diagnostic tool to test the waters.
Precisely.
So let's say the probe works. They don't walk away. They give you a thoughtful critique of the speaker. You've successfully opened the dialogue.
You're in.
But there's a very real danger here. It is so easy for the conversation to immediately flatline into a dry exchange of corporate facts.
Oh, the dreaded resume recital.
Yes, you survive the opening, but then you both retreat into explaining your daily deliverables, and the energy completely drains from the interaction.
To prevent that, there is a fantastic pivot phrase to seamlessly shift the gears. We're just ask, what's keeping you busy outside of events like this?
Okay, look at the framing of that question compared to the standard, what do you do?
It's vastly different.
We fall into the what do you do trap constantly because it's easy, but it really boxes the other person in.
It does.
What's keeping you busy gives them a much wider canvas. They can talk about a specific project they are genuinely fired up about, a new team they are building, or even a complex problem they are trying to solve.
Right. It invites passion and context into the conversation rather than just giving an org chart description.
It allows them to present the most interesting version of their professional life.
However, there is a vital cultural caveat we need to navigate here from our sources.
Right, the hierarchy issue.
Exactly. In heavily hierarchical corporate cultures, which you often find in certain regions across Asia, parts of Europe, or even very traditional financial sectors, skipping the what do you do question can actually create friction.
Because in those environments, knowing someone's title isn't just dry small talk. It's structurally necessary for the interaction to function.
It's foundational.
People need to know your rank, to calibrate their tone, to understand the dynamic, and to know how to properly address you.
Yes.
If you try that casual pivot there, they might feel like you are being evasive or, inappropriately informal.
Exactly. If you ignore the cultural requirement for hierarchy, you risk making the other person deeply uncomfortable. They are mentally scrambling to figure out where you fit in the ecosystem.
So how do we balance that?
Well, there is a brilliant flex option that solves this dilemma perfectly. You simply combine the two. You ask, what do you do, and what's the most interesting thing on your plate right now?
Oh, that is such an elegant solution.
Isn't it?
You are honoring the structural need for the title, but in the exact same breath, you are opening the door for them to talk about their actual daily reality.
You satisfy the cultural norm while still demanding a dynamic answer.
It respects the rules of the room while still elevating the quality of the conversation.
Now, as they explain what's on their plate, you are actively listening. but you cannot remain in the role of the interviewer indefinitely.
Right. If you just keep asking questions, it starts to feel like an interrogation.
Exactly. You have to transition into a bilateral exchange and establish yourself as a peer.
You move from a Q&A format into peer-to-peer storytelling. And the framework introduces what is called the bridge to achieve this organically.
Yes. The phrase is, "That's interesting. We ran into something similar when we were..." And then you share a brief, relevant example.
When we were rolling out a patient engagement platform.
Right. The mechanics of that bridge are incredibly sturdy. It starts with immediate validation. That's interesting.
Which signals that you have actually processed and valued their contribution.
Then the phrase, "we ran into something similar," creates instant solidarity. You are aligning your experience with their struggle or success.
And finally, offering a concise example from your own work proves your competence without you having to explicitly brag about your achievements.
You are trading war stories from the trenches.
So you've bypassed the awkward opening, you've navigated the job titles, and found a shared topic. You are peers.
Yes.
But there's a massive difference between a polite chat and an actual connection. How do you flip the switch so this person actually remembers you and likes you?
Ooh.
Because it's surprisingly not by having the smartest, most impressive insights.
No, it's not. This is perhaps the most counterintuitive realization in the entire framework. We spend an enormous amount of mental energy trying to sound brilliant.
Constantly.
We polish our anecdotes, we try to drop impressive metrics, all to ensure we look smart. But comprehensive research from Harvard completely upends that strategy.
I love this study.
The data consistently shows that people who simply ask follow-up questions are rated as significantly more intelligent and more likable by their conversation partners.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
You're perceived as smarter not by speaking, but by asking the other person to speak more.
Exactly.
Why does the brain respond to that so positively?
It comes down to cognitive offloading and psychological validation. Most networking involves people simply waiting for their turn to speak.
Just nodding and waiting.
Right. They are nodding, but mentally they are just reloading their next talking point. When you ask a targeted follow-up question, you relieve them of the pressure to perform.
You give them a dopamine hit of feeling genuinely heard and understood.
It proves you are present in the interaction, not just waiting for your cue.
I think of this like discovering a hidden trapdoor in a highly polished corporate conversation.
Trapdoor?
Yeah, you know how these go. Everyone is presenting their shiny, PR-approved version of their projects. Everything is going great. Metrics are up.
Oh, always. Everything is perfect.
Right. But asking a simple follow-up question is like pulling a lever that drops you both straight out of corporate speak and into actual, authentic human connection.
That's exactly what happens. You bypass the sanitized summary, and the specific magic phrase to open that trapdoor is beautifully simple. And how did that go for you?
And how did that go for you? It's gentle, it's open-ended, and it completely changes the temperature of the conversation.
It works because it invites the real story. When you ask about a project initially, people usually give you the surface layer, like, the rollout was challenging, but we managed.
Very standard.
But when you pause, maintain eye contact, and ask, and how did that go for you? Yeah, you are giving them permission to step out of the corporate persona. You're letting them talk about their personal lived experience within that challenge.
Let's visualize how this actually plays out. Say someone mentions a massive software integration that fell apart initially because no one on the team wanted to use the new system.
Okay.
Use the trapdoor phrase. And how did that go for you? Did you manage to turn it around?
The response you get to that question will be entirely different from the PR version. Instead of jargon, you get honest vulnerability.
Like what?
The person might let out a sigh and admit, honestly, it took 4 months longer than planned, and I had to have a very uncomfortable closed-door meeting with the CTO to get the budget extended.
Oh, man. That detail, the uncomfortable meeting with the CTO, is absolute gold.
It really is.
You would never, ever get that level of honesty from a standard surface-level networking chat. You only earn that reality by proving you are a safe, interested listener.
And once you share a moment of genuine professional reality, like a shared groan over a difficult stakeholder or a delayed timeline, you have forged an actual connection.
You are no longer strangers swapping business cards.
Yeah.
You are two professionals who understand the realities of the job.
Exactly.
Okay, so you've crushed it. You used the trapdoor, you had an authentic conversation, and you built real rapport. But eventually, you have to leave.
You can't stay forever.
Right. And the best professional connection in the world can be completely ruined if you don't know how to end it properly.
The exit is where a lot of that initial anxiety comes rushing back for people. They linger way too long because they don't know how to gracefully disengage.
You start seeing the physical cues.
Oh, yeah, the shifting of weight from foot to foot, the subtle glances toward the door.
The conversation slowly runs out of oxygen, and it becomes a polite hostage situation.
A hostage situation, that's exactly what it feels like. You don't want to just bolt, but you also don't want to trap them. It's about building a smooth exit ramp.
And the framework provides a masterclass phrase for exactly this moment. It's been really good talking to you. I don't want to keep you, but I'd love to stay in touch.
The brilliance of that phrase hinges entirely on the words, "I don't want to keep you." It is an incredibly graceful way to disengage because it frames the exit as an act of generosity.
You are opening the door from the inside.
Yes.
You are framing the end of the conversation not as your desire to escape, but as your respect for their time.
You are voluntarily releasing them back into the room so they can achieve their own goals for the event.
Which instantly removes any feeling of obligation or awkward lingering.
It does. But before you completely walk away, you need to drop an anchor, a final strategic phrase to ensure you remain memorable when you inevitably follow up the next day.
And what's that phrase?
You say, "Before I let you go, what's the one thing you're hoping to take away from today?"
That is so smart. It does two things simultaneously. First, it elevates the conversation one last time by focusing on their actual goals and purpose for attending.
And second, it gives you a highly specific, non-transactional detail to reference later.
Right.
If they reply, "I'm really hoping to find a reliable vendor for data analytics," you now have the perfect opening line for your LinkedIn message tomorrow.
You aren't sending the generic "great to meet you" message that always gets ignored.
Exactly. You can write, "Great meeting you yesterday. I hope you managed to track down a solid data analytics vendor." It proves conclusively that you listened.
It cements the connection. Now, we have mapped out what to do, but we absolutely have to cover the red flags, the phrases that actively destroy the trust you just spent 20 minutes building.
There are two massive pitfalls that can instantly undo all your hard work.
Yeah, lay them out.
The first one is a phrase that is incredibly common, and most people think they are being polite when they say it. "Let's grab coffee sometime."
Okay, I have to admit, I use that all the time. I always thought it was the standard, friendly way to end a chat. Why is that a red flag?
Because it signals what psychologists call low intent.
Low intent.
Think about the mechanics of that offer. There is no date, there is no specific action, and there is no real commitment. It is the corporate equivalent of casually telling an old acquaintance, "We should hang out."
Oh, right. Because it is completely vague, the other person implicitly understands that it is just a polite fiction.
Exactly. You have no real intention of putting in the work to schedule a meeting. It actually creates mental clutter for them, leaving the interaction feeling hollow.
That makes perfect sense. It's an empty gesture. So how do we fix it? What is the high-intent alternative?
You must be specific and action-oriented. Instead of a vague coffee offer, you state exactly what you will do. "I'll send you a message on LinkedIn this afternoon."
That's much better.
It provides a concrete next step, requires zero immediate logistical work from them, and establishes you as a professional who does exactly what they say they are going to do.
Clear and reliable. What is the second major red flag to avoid?
The second trap is bringing your own needs to the table far too early in the relationship. Specifically, dropping a line like, "I'm actually looking for new opportunities right now," within the first few minutes of meeting someone.
Oh yeah, that instantly changes the temperature of the room. It ruins the trust because it reveals an ulterior motive.
It violently shifts the dynamic from a peer-to-peer relational connection to a transactional request. You have just met this person.
Right.
They don't know the quality of your work, they don't know your character, and they absolutely cannot vouch for you yet.
By signaling that you want something from them, whether it's a job, a client lead, or a favor, you place them in a highly uncomfortable position.
They will spend the rest of the conversation actively looking for an exit ramp.
You've basically turned a chance encounter into an uninvited job interview. Networking is fundamentally an exercise in building relational equity before you ever attempt to make a withdrawal.
Perfectly said. If an ask needs to happen, it has to come much later, once real trust is established.
Exactly. Which brings us to the core philosophy behind all of this language. When you utilize this framework, approaching with self-awareness, pivoting past the job title, asking genuine follow-ups, and exiting gracefully, you undergo a massive paradigm shift.
You really do.
You stop viewing networking as a stressful, improvisational task where your goal is to extract contacts and business cards from a room.
Because that extraction mindset is what makes you anxious. Instead, it becomes a structured, predictable opportunity where your goal is to contribute to a conversation.
When your mindset is focused on contribution, by listening, by validating, by giving them an exit ramp, you are relaxed. You are no longer performing. You are just participating.
And that relaxed confidence is exactly what makes you someone that other professionals actually want to talk to.
To help you internalize this, we have a specific challenge for you to try out in the real world today.
Yes.
Find just one professional conversation. Doesn't have to be a big conference. It could be a routine team lunch, though 5 minutes before a Zoom call officially starts, or catching up with a colleague in the break room.
Anywhere works.
Use that magic trapdoor phrase. And how did that go for you? Just deploy it once.
Pay very close attention to how the dynamic in the room shifts the moment you ask it. Notice the depth and quality of the answer you receive compared to the sanitized updates you usually hear.
And if you really want to lock in the habit, send that person a follow-up message later in the day, referencing one highly specific detail they shared in their answer.
Watch how rapidly that simple act changes the trajectory of your working relationship. It is a microscopic behavioral tweak that yields massive professional dividends over time.
It really is. Now, as we wrap up our deep dive into the architecture of conversation, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over. Something that really stuck with me regarding that Harvard research we discussed earlier.
Well, it's a fascinating study with a lot of implications.
We talked about how powerful it is to simply ask a follow-up question, to put down your own agenda and genuinely listen to someone else's lived experience.
Right.
But think about the broader context. If the simple, deeply human act of asking, how did that go for you, is so incredibly rare in the corporate world that researchers at Harvard actually had to conduct a formal, peer-reviewed study just to prove its effectiveness. What does that say about the environment we work in?
Wow.
What does that say about how isolated and unheard everyone in that bustling networking room actually feels?
It is a staggering implication, really. It suggests that beneath the surface of all these polished corporate events, there is an environment absolutely starving for authentic human connection.
Exactly. So think back to that image we started with. The lukewarm coffee, the frantic scrolling on your phone, the overwhelming feeling of being completely alone in a crowded room.
We've all been there.
The next time you are standing by a pillar, nervous about approaching a stranger, consider this. That stranger isn't judging you. They might just be standing there feeling completely overwhelmed by the exact same pressure, desperately waiting to be rescued by someone willing to ask them a real question.
That's a powerful reframe.
You have the framework now. Be that person.